Park had seen many strange things in her 28 years of life. She had watched volcanoes erupt from safe distances. She had touched sharks in aquariums. She had walked through forests where bears and wolves still roamed, but nothing had prepared her for the look on the alien's face when she sneezed. The ambassador jumped backward so fast that his long blue legs tangled together. He fell against the wall of the orientation room, his thin arms raised in defense, his large black eyes wide with terror. "I am sorry," said quickly. "It is just a sneeze. My body removes dust from my nose this way." Ambassador slowly lowered his arms. His translucent blue skin was flushing purple, which had learned meant embarrassment. Around the room, 6 other aliens were staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to fear. "That sound," said his voice shaking slightly. "It was very sudden." Standing beside, crossed his arms over his chest. At 35 years old, the former Marine had faced many things that tried to kill him. Alien diplomats afraid of sneezes was a new experience. "Should I warn you before I cough too?" asked. His voice was flat but caught the small smile at the corner of his mouth. Straightened himself with what dignity he could find. "That will not be necessary. Let us continue with the orientation." They were on station, a massive trading hub that floated in space at the edge of what the galactic community called civilized territory. Humanity had only made contact with alien life 5 years ago. Now, and were part of the first team sent to establish a permanent human presence on the station. The orientation room was designed for species from low-gravity worlds. The chairs were delicate things that looked like they would break if sat on them. The lighting was dim and blue. The air felt thin, though the station maintained Earth-standard atmosphere in the human areas. "As I was saying," continued, returning to his podium, "all new species must complete safety orientation before accessing the main station areas. This is for your protection." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a complex chart. Leaned forward with interest. This was why she was here. As a understanding alien life was her entire purpose. "Each species is classified according to their home world's danger level," explained. "Class 1 worlds are the safest. Stable temperatures, no predators, calm weather. Most civilized species come from Class 1 through Class 4 worlds." The display showed images of peaceful alien planets, gentle forests under pink skies, calm oceans with no waves, mountains that had not changed in millions of years. "Class 5 through Class 8 worlds are considered hazardous," continued. "Species from these worlds are rare. They require special accommodations." "What class is Earth?" asked. Made a sound that's translator interpreted as a laugh. It was not a kind laugh. "According to our initial surveys, your planet was rated Class 12. A murmur ran through the other aliens in the room. The small, 6-limbed trader called actually whimpered. Class 12 asked, "What does that mean?" "It means nothing," said. "It is clearly an error in the survey data. Class 12 is theoretical only. It would indicate a world so hostile that intelligent life could not possibly evolve there." He smiled, showing teeth that were flat and designed for soft plants. "We call such theoretical beings, creatures that could survive such hellish conditions, but are a myth, a story to frighten children. No such species exists." And exchanged a look. "Your planet has what?" asked, checking his notes. "An oxygen-rich atmosphere. That is unusual but not dangerous." "Oxygen is explosive and corrosive," said. Waved a thin hand. "In very high concentrations, perhaps. I am sure your 21% is quite safe." "Our atmosphere regularly catches fire during storms," said. "We call it lightning." Smile faltered for just a moment. "How interesting. Your planet also has large bodies of water, very normal." 70% of our surface is covered with water," said. "Salt water. It corrodes metal. There are creatures in it that could eat everyone in this room in under a minute." The trader made a sound like a squeaking door. His 6 limbs were trembling. And you have some tectonic activity, continued, his voice slightly less confident now. Very mild, I am sure. The ground shakes regularly, said. Sometimes it opens up. Mountains explode and throw liquid rock into the air. The rock is so hot it glows. Set down his notes. His purple embarrassment had faded to something paler. Fear, perhaps. Surely you exaggerate, he said. We also have spinning columns of wind that destroy cities, added, and waves of water taller than buildings that crash onto land, and ice storms, and heat waves, and seasons where everything dies and the world turns white and frozen. And diseases, said, tiny creatures too small to see that invade our bodies and try to kill us from inside. We fight them constantly. Our bodies are at war every moment of every day. The room was silent. One of the scientists raised a trembling hand. How are you alive? Smiled gently. We adapt, we survive. We have been doing it for a very long time. Gathered his notes with shaking hands. This is clearly propaganda. Exaggerations meant to make your primitive species seem impressive. I have seen many newcomers try such tactics. It will not work on the Trade Council. Before could respond, every light in the room turned red. A siren began to wail. The aliens around them immediately fell to the floor, curling into protective balls, was crying quietly. What is happening? Asked. He had not moved except to put himself between and the door. His body was relaxed but ready. His voice came from somewhere near the floor. Quarantine alarm. Something has escaped in the sector. Escaped? Asked. What escaped? I do not know, but if they are sounding this alarm, it is something terrible, something that kills. He looked back at her. Neither of them got on the floor. Should we help? Asked. His head emerged from his protective curl. He stared at her like she had spoken in a language his translator could not understand. Help? Help with what? Whatever escaped, should we help catch it? The ambassador's pale blue face went almost white. You would. Go toward the danger. Shrugged, depends on what it is. What is in the... One of the scientists whispered. They were transporting through the station. It escaped. His crying became louder. What is a? Asked. A predator, said. The word came out like a curse. From a Class 6 world, it is armored. It has venomous spines. It is fast and silent, and it kills anything it sees. Nodded slowly. How big is it? Nearly a meter long, a perfect killing machine. Made a sound that on Earth would have been recognized as a surprised laugh. A meter, so, about the size of a big dog. What is a dog? Asked. The bulkheads began to seal. Heavy metal doors slammed shut around the station, locking each section away from the others. Locking whatever had escaped away from the general population. Locking the humans in the sector. Well, said, watching the last door seal shut with a heavy clang. I guess we are helping whether we wanted to or not. Touched the communication device on her wrist. Nothing. The quarantine was blocking signals. They were trapped. Somewhere in the something was hunting. And for the first time since arriving on the station, felt like she might actually have something interesting to do. The sector was beautiful. Had to admit that, even as alarms continued to wail around them. Through the transparent walls, she could see the massive artificial ecosystem that filled the center of station. Trees of purple and gold stretched toward lights that simulated alien suns. Streams of crystal-clear water wound between rocks covered in soft moss. Strange birds with too many wings floated through the air. And somewhere in there, a predator was loose. We need to find shelter, said. The ambassador had finally risen from the floor, though his legs were still shaking. The security teams will handle the creature. What security teams? Asked. He was standing by a window, watching with calm eyes. I have been on this station for 3 days. I have not seen a single guard. We have drones, said. Automated systems, they handle all security matters. How do drones handle a predator? Opened his mouth, then he closed it, his skin flushed purple again. I do not know, he admitted. A new voice spoke from behind them. They do not handle it well, that is the answer. Turned to see a human woman walking toward them. She was in her early 30s, with short dark hair and practical clothes covered in dirt and plant matter. Her name tag read, Botanical Research. You are human, said surprised. I thought we were the first team. You are the first diplomatic team, said. She wiped her dirty hands on her pants. I have been here for 2 years studying the plant life. The station does not count scientists as important. She looked at the cowering aliens. The drones are designed for small crimes, theft, vandalism. They are not equipped for organic threats. So no one can catch this thing? Asked. The plan is to wait for it to starve, said. The is sealed. No food will be delivered. Eventually, they will weaken enough for the drones to contain it. How long will that take? Days, maybe a week. The small trader was still crying. We will die. We are trapped here with a monster. We will all die. Calm down, said gently. She knelt beside the trembling alien. Up close, she could see that his 6 limbs were covered in soft fur the color of honey. His eyes were large and wet like a frightened rabbit. We are not going to die. The kills everything, whispered. It sees movement and it attacks. It does not stop. It does not sleep. It does not feel mercy. It is an animal, said. All animals follow rules. We just need to understand the rules. Laughed, but there was no humor in it. Understand a predator. You cannot understand something that exists only to kill. We have predators on Earth, said. Many predators. We understand them very well. You do not have predators like this, said. This creature comes from a Class 6 world. It evolved in darkness. It hunts by sensing heat and movement. Its armor can stop most weapons. Its venom kills in minutes. Was checking something on a small device. The creature was captured on its home world 3 months ago. It was being transported to a research facility in the core systems. Premium cargo, very expensive. How did it escape? Asked. The transport container was damaged during docking. Bad handling. Looked up. It has been loose for 6 hours. No casualties yet, which means it is hiding somewhere. Hiding, turned from the window. Predators do not hide. Scared predators do, said. She understood now. This creature has been in a cage for 3 months, transported across space. Then its container broke and it found itself in a strange environment with strange smells and strange sounds. It is not hunting. It is terrified. The scientists looked at her with confusion. Terrified, it is a monster. Monsters do not feel fear. Everything feels fear, said. Fear is how things survive. A loud crash came from somewhere deep in the screamed and pressed himself against the wall. The drop to the floor again. That was a tree falling, said, looking at her device. The creature is moving. It is going toward the water source in the center. Water, said. It is thirsty. Has anyone thought to just give it water? Silence. Stared at her. Give water to the monster. If it is thirsty and scared, giving it what it needs might calm it down. Looked at. What do you think? The former Marine was quiet for a moment. I think we should take a look at it. See what we are dealing with. You cannot be serious, said. You would approach a Class 6 predator. I have approached Class 12 predators, said simply. I grew up near a forest full of bears. My grandfather taught me to fish in water where crocodiles lived. This thing is the size of a dog. What is a dog? Asked again. A predator, said. A predator that we made into our friend. Thousands of years ago we found wolves. They were dangerous. They could kill humans, but we learned to understand them. We shared food with them. We gave them safety, and they became part of our families. Stopped crying. He was staring at with an expression she could not read. You made friends with killers. We made friends with everything we could, said. Wolves became dogs, wild cats became pets, we ride horses, we keep birds in our homes, we swim with creatures that could bite us in half. He moved toward the door that led into the On Earth, the best way to survive is to make the dangerous things like you. This is madness, said. I forbid it. As the ranking official, I order you to stay here and wait for the situation to resolve. Looked at him. The look was not threatening. It was not angry. It was simply the look of someone who had made a decision and would not change it. You can stay here, said. We are going to help. The door hissed open. Beyond it, the stretched out in all its strange beauty. The air smelled of unfamiliar flowers. The sound of water was soft and constant. And somewhere in the carefully maintained wilderness, something with armored skin and venomous spines was afraid and alone. Picked up a bag of tools. I know the well, I can guide you. Nodded, then let us go find this monster. They walked into the artificial forest. Behind them, the aliens watched with expressions of pure disbelief. They are dead, whispered. They are walking to their deaths. Said nothing. He was beginning to wonder if the Class 12 rating had been an error after all, or if perhaps he had spent his entire life not understanding what the universe really contained. The three humans disappeared into the purple trees. They moved without fear, without panic. They moved like creatures who belonged in dangerous places. They moved like they were coming home. The stream in the center of them was shallow and warm. It had been designed to look natural but could see the machines hidden beneath the rocks that kept the water clean and flowing. Everything in this place was artificial, controlled, safe. Except for the creature drinking at the water's edge. Held up her hand, stopping the group behind a cluster of purple ferns. There, she whispered. Looked, that was smaller than she had expected, about the size of a large dog, just as it said. Its body was covered in dark plates of natural armor, overlapping like the scales of a fish. 6 legs supported its weight, each ending in curved claws made for gripping stone. Along its back, rows of spines stood up like the quills of a porcupine. It was drinking desperately, its wide head lowered to the water. Every few seconds it would lift its head and look around, ears twitching, nostrils flaring. It is scared, said quietly. How can you tell? Asked. The way it moves, the way it keeps checking for danger, the spines are raised but not locked. It is defensive, not aggressive. He studied the creature with careful eyes. It is also tired. Look at how its legs are shaking. Watched the drink. In another life on another planet she had watched deer drink from streams the same way. Alert, nervous, ready to run at the first sign of danger. What do we do? Asked. We let it see us, said, slowly, no sudden movement. We show it that we are not a threat. And if it attacks? Considered the question. Then I will stop it, but I do not think it will attack. It does not want to fight, it wants to be safe. He began to move forward. His steps were slow and deliberate. His body was relaxed, his hands visible and open at his sides. He made no effort to hide his approach. He walked like someone who had nothing to fear. The heard him coming. Its head snapped up, water dripping from its jaws. The spines along its back rose higher, clicking together with a sound like dry bones. Its eyes, large and dark and surprisingly expressive, locked onto the approaching human. Stopped, he was 10 meters away from the creature, close enough to see, far enough to not threaten. Hello, he said. His voice was low and calm. You have had a bad day, have you not? The hissed. It was a warning sound, full of fear and aggression mixed together. Its 6 legs tensed, ready to run or fight. I know, continued, speaking as if the creature could understand him. Perhaps it could sense his tone, if not his words. Strange place, strange smells. You do not know where you are. You do not know if you are safe. Slowly, very slowly, he knelt down. He made himself smaller, less threatening. His eyes stayed on the creature, but his gaze was soft, not challenging. We are not going to hurt you, he said. We just want to help. The watched him, its spines twitched, its muscles were coiled tight with tension. From their hiding spot, and watched without breathing. And then something remarkable happened. The spines began to lower. Not all the way, not completely, but the creature's defensive posture was slowly relaxing. It watched with those dark eyes, and something in its animal brain was making a calculation. This thing was not attacking, this thing was not running, this thing was being calm. Extended his hand, palm up, just as he would have done with a frightened dog back home. "Come here," he said softly. "I know you are scared, but you do not have to be, not anymore." The took a step forward, then another. Its movements were cautious, testing. Every few seconds it would pause, ready to run if the strange creature made any threatening moves. Did not move. The creature came closer, 5 meters, 3 meters, 2. It stopped just out of arm's reach and lowered its head, sniffing the air around his hand. Its nostrils flared wide, taking in his scent. Then, in a moment that would be discussed in universities across the galaxy for centuries, the pressed its armored head against open palm. The human let out a slow breath. His fingers found the spot behind the creature's jaw, where the armor plates met soft tissue. He scratched gently, the way his grandmother had taught him to handle nervous animals. The made a sound. It was not a hiss. It was not a growl. It was something lower, something resonant, something that vibrated through its chest and out into the air. It was almost like a purr. Stepped out from behind the ferns, followed, her mouth hanging open. "That is impossible," whispered. Looked up at them, one hand still scratching the deadly predator's chin. "On Earth, we have a saying, there are no bad animals, only scared ones." The settled down onto the ground, its 6 legs folding beneath it. It pressed closer to, seeking the warmth of his body. Its eyes were half closed. Its spines lay flat against its back. It looked almost peaceful. Approached slowly and knelt beside them. She pulled out her scanning device and began taking readings. Its stress hormones are dropping, heart rate slowing. It is actually calming down. "Of course it is," said. "Poor thing has been alone and scared for months. It just needed someone to show it that not everything in the universe wants to hurt it." A small camera drone floated overhead. The quarantine systems were still watching, recording everything that happened in the. Somewhere in the station's control center, the footage was being viewed by station chief. An ambassador. In the orientation room, the ambassador was standing perfectly still. His blue skin had gone almost white. His large eyes were fixed on the display screen showing the feed from the Class 6 Predator, the monster, the killing machine. It was lying on the ground, while a human scratched behind its ears. "That is not possible," said beside him. His voice was barely a whisper. "Do not, they cannot." "It is tame," said. The words felt strange in his mouth. "The human tamed it." "No," said. "No, it is a trick, it must be a trick." But it was not a trick. There was now lying on its back, exposing its soft belly, while took readings and continued to scratch every spot the creature pushed toward him. His voice came through the audio feed. "On Earth, we keep wolves in our homes. We turn the ancestors of that thing into pets that sleep in our beds and lick our faces. Your people befriend killers," said quietly. It was not a question anymore. Back in the looked up at the drone camera. She knew they were being watched. It was thirsty and scared. That is all. It was not a monster. It was just an animal that needed help. Lifted thee into his arms. The creature weighed perhaps 30 kilograms, heavy enough that any would struggle to lift it. The human carried it like it was nothing. "We should get it somewhere safe," he said. "It needs food, proper rest, maybe a medical check." "You are not going to kill it." His voice came through the drone speakers. Looked at the camera with an expression of genuine confusion. "Why would we kill it? It was not hurting anyone. It was just scared." Sat down heavily in the nearest chair. His entire understanding of the universe was rearranging itself. "We're a myth," he had said. But myths do not carry monsters in their arms like sleeping children. Myths do not scratch predators behind the ears until they purr. Myths do not look at the deadliest creatures in the galaxy and say, "Poor thing, it just needed a friend." The bulkhead doors were beginning to unseal. The quarantine was ending. An ambassador knew that nothing would ever be the same again. On his home world, they told stories about his warnings, monsters from impossible planets who killed without mercy. No one had ever told stories about who showed mercy instead. Perhaps he thought they should have. The council chamber of station was the largest room had ever been in. It stretched upward for nearly 100 meters, with floating platforms at different levels for species that preferred different heights. The walls were covered in screens showing views of distant stars and peaceful alien worlds. Today, all those screens showed the same image, kneeling beside the, scratching its chin. I sat at the center of the highest platform. They were ancient, even by galactic standards, their body wrapped in glowing robes that hid whatever shape lay beneath. They communicated through patterns of light that their translation device turned into words. "We have called this emergency session," the translated voice said, "to discuss the events in the, and to address some concerns about the human species." Ambassador stood on a platform slightly below the. His blue skin was pale, his posture stiff. He had spent the last 12 hours trying to explain what he had witnessed. No one had believed him. "The footage speaks for itself," said. "I saw it with my own eyes. The human approached a Class 6 predator without weapons, without armor, without fear, and the creature submitted to him." A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. There were dozens of species present, each on their own platform, had never seen so many different forms of life in one place. "Submitted is a strong word," Hai said. "Perhaps the creature was simply tired." The creature pressed its head against his hand, said. It exposed its belly to him. It allowed him to carry it. In 30 generations of galactic study, no one has ever documented allowing contact with any other species. A new voice joined the discussion. Permission to address the council. Turned. A human man was walking into the chamber, escorted by station security. He was in his mid-40s, with gray at his temples and a face that looked like it had spent many years in difficult negotiations. His suit was formal but practical. "Ambassador I am," the man said, bowing slightly. "I represent Earth and its people. I came as quickly as I could when I heard about the incident." "An incident you should explain," one of the council members said. "Alike but much older and larger. Your people have been presented as a minor species from a minor world. These videos suggest otherwise." Took his place on an empty platform. He stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm and serious. "The galactic records contain errors about Earth," he said. "We did not correct them because we were not sure how you would react to the truth." "And what is the truth?" asked. Touched a control on his platform. The screens around the chamber changed. The image of and the disappeared, replaced by views of Earth. "This is our home," said. "Class 12 rating was accurate." The first video showed a thunderstorm. Lightning split the sky over and over, striking the ground with explosive force. Rain fell in sheets so thick it blocked visibility. Wind bent trees nearly to the ground. "Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen," said. "Corrosive and flammable. Our weather systems routinely generate electrical discharges of several billion joules. This is considered normal. Children play outside after such storms." The video changed to show an ocean. Beautiful blue water stretching to the horizon. Then something massive broke the surface. A creature with more teeth than seemed possible, and crashed back down in an explosion of spray. 70% of our surface is covered with a water solution that dissolves most common building materials, continued. This water contains predators ranging in size from microscopic to larger than this chamber. Humans swim in this water for recreation. The council was silent. Several representatives had stopped their translations, unable to process what they were seeing. The video showed a volcano erupting, mountains of fire reaching toward the sky, rivers of molten rock flowing across the land. Our planet's crust is unstable, said. The ground shakes regularly, sometimes destroying entire cities. Mountains explode with liquid rock hot enough to melt steel. We build our homes on these mountains anyway. The soil is very good for farming. You cannot be serious, someone said. The video changed again. A tornado spinning through a flat landscape. Then a tsunami, a wall of water taller than buildings. Then a forest fire, flames consuming everything in their path. We have survived asteroid impacts that killed 90% of life on the planet, said. We have survived ice ages that covered half our world in frozen water. We have survived disease outbreaks that killed half our population. We are still here. The final video was different. It showed a human family, a mother, a father, 2 children. They were sitting on a porch while behind them lightning flashed across the sky. A dog lay at their feet. They were laughing at something, completely relaxed. But we did not survive by fighting everything, said. We survived by adapting, by learning, by making allies of anything that would have us. He touched another control. Images appeared showing humans with animals, wolves sitting beside hunters, horses carrying riders, cats curled in laps, elephants being bathed, hawks perched on arms, dolphins swimming alongside boats. Every predator on our world we have made peace with, said. Dogs were wolves, cats were solitary killers, horses were prey animals that could trample us to death. We offered them food, shelter, companionship, and they joined our families. Stepped forward on's platform. There was not with him, having been taken to a proper containment area with food and water and soft bedding. But the council members still flinched when he moved. Your species are afraid of predators, said. On Earth, we do not have that luxury. There are predators everywhere, in the water, in the trees, in the grass. The only way to survive was to understand them, to predict them, to make them choose us as friends instead of prey. And if they will not choose friendship, asked. Smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something in it that made several council members look away. Then we are very, very good at defending ourselves, he said. But we always try friendship first. It is easier, and it lasts longer. Stepped forward beside him. The Indha was not evil. It was scared and alone. All it needed was someone to show it kindness. Kindness, the old repeated. You showed kindness to a monster. It was not a monster, said. It was just an animal like us, like all of you, just trying to survive. Looked around the chamber, at the hundreds of species watching with fear and amazement, at the screen still showing humans living alongside predators that should have killed them. We are not here to conquer, he said. We are not here to threaten. We are here because we heard there was a galaxy full of new species and we wanted to meet them. We wanted to make friends. He smiled, and despite everything, it was a warm smile. That is what we do, he said. That is what we have always done. We find something that could kill us and we make it part of our pack. Bioluminescence flickered in patterns that no one in the room had seen before. When their translated voice finally spoke, it was quiet. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, they said, no species has ever described itself this way. No species has ever wanted to befriend predators. Then I suppose we are the first, said. We are happy to be here. We hope you will give us a chance. A transmission alert suddenly filled the chamber. Emergency signals from the outer rim, from a colony world under attack. And as the council scrambled to respond, Ambassador received a private message on his communication device. It was a request. The first official request from an alien species for human assistance. They wanted the humans to help. The colony on 7 was dying. Could see it through the viewport of the S as they approached the planet. Great dark clouds covered half the surface, clouds that moved in patterns no weather system could produce. They swirled and shifted, spreading across the land like a living shadow. Captain Minu said. He was a tall man in his 40s, with lines on his face from years of looking at distant stars. Species. They move in swarms controlled by a queen. When they find a world with resources they need, they strip it clean. They are doing this to the colony, asked. They are doing this because their queen is trapped. Minu pointed to a section of the cloud that was spinning faster than the rest. She crashed 3 days ago. The swarm is trying to free her, but they do not care what they destroy in the process. There was Earth's first rapid response vessel, carrying 200 human crew members. It was not a warship, though it could defend itself. It was designed for exactly this kind of situation, a problem that needed to be solved carefully. Stood at the tactical station, studying the swarm patterns. They are not actually attacking the colony, they are just searching. The colonists are in the way. The colonists have lost 40 people, said the ship's combat medic. She was young and fierce, with steady hands and eyes that had seen too much suffering. Crushed by the swarm, poisoned by their venom, the survivors are hiding in underground shelters, but those will not last forever. What is the galactic solution for swarms? Asked. Kill them, Minu said bluntly. Burn the swarm until nothing is left, then find the queen and destroy her before she can lay new eggs. Is that what you are going to do? Minu smiled. It was a strange smile for a moment like this. That is what they expect us to do. A ship full of arrives, weapons blazing, monsters killing monsters. He shook his head. But we are not monsters, and maybe these are not monsters either. They descended through the atmosphere. Around them, the swarm noticed their approach. Thousands of, each the size of a human torso, turned their multifaceted eyes toward the strange metal object falling from the sky. They are not attacking, said. They are watching. They are curious, said. She had been studying the swarm patterns during the approach. They have never seen anything like us. Their queen's pheromones tell them to search and gather, but they do not have specific instructions about us. Minu opened a channel to the crew. Landing teams, prepare for deployment. Remember your training, move slowly. No sudden threats. We are here to help, not to hurt. They landed near the swarm's center of activity. Through the viewports, they could see thousands of swarming around a massive crater. Something large was at the bottom, half buried in dirt and broken rock. That is the queen, said. The transport ship crashed there. She is trapped under the wreckage. For 3 days, said. No food, no water, limited air, she must be dying. And her swarm is trying to save her, said. They are not attacking the colony. They are panicking. They do not know how to help their queen. Minu nodded. Then we help the queen. The landing ramp opened. 100 humans walked out onto an alien world, into the middle of a swarm that had killed 40 colonists. And the swarm stopped. Thousands of froze in place. Their wings went still. Their eyes turned toward the strange creatures walking among them without fear. They are confused, said. Her translation device was working hard, trying to interpret the chemical signals they used to communicate. They are asking each other what we are. No one knows. Walked forward toward the crater, parted around him like water around a stone. They watched him with alien curiosity, but they did not attack. Hello, he said. Not to the swarm, but to the creature buried at the bottom of the crater. The queen was enormous, 10 meters long, her body covered in golden armor that gleamed even through the dirt and debris. She was trapped under twisted metal, her great eyes dim with exhaustion and pain. But when spoke, those eyes focused on him. We are here to help, he said. We are going to get you out. Minu began giving orders. Teams with cutting equipment moved to the wreckage. Medical staff prepared treatments based on the little information Earth had about biology. Engineers studied the metal and stone, planning the safest way to move it. Approached the Queen with a container of water. The swarm around her buzzed with warning signals, but she did not stop. "You are thirsty," she said to the giant creature. "Here." She poured water into a depression near the Queen's mouth. The great creature watched her for a long moment. Then slowly, she lowered her head and drank. The swarm's buzzing changed. The warning signals faded. Something like wonder replaced them. "They have never seen this before," said. She was standing at the edge of the crater, monitoring the chemical signals. "No species has ever helped them. Every species they have encountered has fought them or fled from them." "Then we will be the first," Minyu said. For hours the humans worked. They cut away wreckage. They treated the Queen's injuries. They brought food and water for her and for the swarm. Slowly, piece by piece, they freed her from her prison. And through it all they watched the strange creatures who moved without fear, who touched their Queen with gentle hands, who gave instead of taking, who helped instead of hurting. When the last piece of wreckage was lifted away, the Queen rose on shaking legs. She was weak but alive. Her golden armor was scratched and dented, but her eyes were bright. She turned to face Minyu. For a long moment, human and looked at each other. Two species that had never met, two species that should have been enemies. Then the Queen lowered her great head, not in submission, in greeting, in thanks. Minyu bowed in return. The swarm began to move, but not toward the colony, not toward the humans. They were gathering around their Queen, checking her injuries, bringing her food from their own stores. One small, a drone no bigger than a human hand, separated from the swarm. It flew toward Minyu and hovered in front of him. In its small claws, it held something that sparkled. A crystal perfectly shaped, beautiful. Minyu held out his hand, and the drone dropped the crystal into his palm. "A gift," said quietly. "They are giving us a gift." The colonists were emerging from their shelters. They watched in amazement as the human crew walked among them, as the two species communicated through gestures and offerings of food and the simple universal language of kindness. An elderly approached Minyu. She had lost her grandson to the swarm 3 days ago. There were tears on her fur, but also something else in her eyes. "You could have killed them all," she said. "You had the power, why did you not?" Answered, still bandaging a wound on a young that had been injured in the crash. Just because you can kill something does not mean you should. Sometimes the monster just needs someone to show it kindness. They stayed on 7 for a week. By the time it left, the swarm had moved on, guided by their Queen to an uninhabited world where they could rebuild. The colony was already repairing, and something new had entered the galaxy's collective understanding. Humans were not monsters who killed other monsters. They were something much more strange, much more wonderful, much more terrifying. They looked at things that could destroy them and chose to love them anyway. On the journey home, Ambassador received hundreds of messages, requests for human diplomats, human advisors, human presence on worlds that had never before wanted contact with anyone. In a quiet corner of the ship sat with, watching the stars pass by. "They are afraid of us," she said. "They are amazed by us," corrected. "There is a difference." "Is there?" He smiled. "Fear makes you run. Amazement makes you want to come closer. They are coming closer." On station, the trader was telling everyone who would listen about the humans he had met, about the woman who knelt beside him when he was afraid, about the man who carried a predator in his arms. On the council world, Hai was quietly updating the galactic records. Class 12 species were no longer listed as theoretical. The entry for Earth was being completely rewritten. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, on 1,000,000 different worlds, people were beginning to tell new stories about. Not stories about monsters. Stories about the strange creatures who made friends with everything, who looked at predators and saw companions, who answered violence with kindness. Stories about humans. The most dangerous thing about them, the stories would say, was not their strength, not their endurance, not the impossible world that had forged them into something the galaxy had never seen. The most dangerous thing about humans was their terrible, beautiful, unstoppable capacity to look at something that could destroy them and choose to love it anyway. It was the most frightening thing in the galaxy, and somehow also the most hopeful.